I'm Shirakawa from Unso. Today, I'd like to talk about my thoughts on the reality of the trucking industry. So, regarding the 2024 problem, which is getting a lot of attention in the industry right now, I'd like to talk about what we think and how we're dealing with it. Unso is in its 56th year since its founding, and we've specialized solely in transporting thoroughbreds. So, for a company like ours, I'd like to talk about the characteristics of a trucking company that won't go out of business even with the 2024 problem. As for the 2024 problem, for those involved in the trucking industry, I think many of you are quite concerned or already know the details. It means that daily, per trip, and monthly working hours, as well as on-duty hours, will be restricted. Until now, the job was mainly about earning more the more you drive. This is part of the government's work style reform, a major policy aimed at long-distance drivers, as I mentioned earlier. The big thing is that drivers won't be able to drive as much as before, and there will be less work. While less work might make things easier in this industry, or rather for long-distance drivers, the commission-based portion makes up a large part of their income. Since it's that kind of industry, the problem of a significant drop in income is also a major concern. For people in this industry, it's a very big problem, and our company has also been working on countermeasures for a long time. Through that process, we've come to see various things, so I'd like to share my perspective on the companies that will survive after 2024 and the ones that will go under. At Unso, we are always recruiting truck drivers. If you're interested, it's also in the description, but we have a recruitment site, so please take a look and we look forward to your application.
President Shirakawa.
Yes.
What are the characteristics of a trucking company that will survive?
Well, to get right to the main point, the trucking companies that will survive in the future are those that can raise their shipping rates and pass the benefits back to their employees as salary.
I see. So you're saying there are companies that aren't able to pass it back as salary?
In reality, I think that's the case for most of them. You know, companies that are second tier, third tier, or even fourth tier subcontractors. You might not be familiar with this since you're not in the industry, but the structure of the transportation industry is similar to the construction industry in some ways. Second, third, and fourth tier subcontracting is common, so for those places, it's become difficult to raise shipping rates, structurally speaking. Also, for example, in Hokkaido, or from Hokkaido to Tokyo's Tsukiji, jobs that involve transporting fresh produce. It's easy to imagine, and perhaps those of you watching can picture it easily. But for long-distance routes, like between Kanto and Kyushu, it's already difficult to begin with. And with the 2024 problem in mind, or rather because the rules are getting stricter and stricter, the current situation is that companies are already withdrawing or going out of business. So drivers might go to major companies or go to companies that only do local deliveries or companies that mainly do local deliveries. At this point, that's the only criteria they can use to choose. That's the current situation.
So you're saying that major transportation companies can continue with peace of mind?
That's right. When it comes to major companies, well, the reason you can feel secure is that major companies, as prime contractors, they can raise their own shipping fees. That's a big factor.
So are you saying that companies that can't decide their own shipping fees will have a harder time?
That's right. So, well, major companies can give back to their drivers in the form of salary or increase relay warehouses and shift transportation itself more and more to relay transport. And since their pay and benefits are also substantial, they can also increase their workforce and spend money on various countermeasures. For major companies, well, I suppose I can mention their names like Sagawa or Yamato. I think the general public is familiar with their logos and color schemes, and many people see their trucks, but the ones actually driving long distances are subcontractors. It's often companies with a different company name written small somewhere on the truck that are actually driving the long distances. I think you might notice it if you look closely at the small company names written by subcontractors, but there are a ton of them. Also, for jobs on long-distance routes that require long hours of driving, the 2024 problem will either make the trip itself impossible, or they'll have to stay overnight at the destination rest time. In the industry, we call it a rest period, but that's confusing, isn't it? They'll have to secure rest time, so a job that used to be a single trip, for example, from Hokkaido to Tokyo and back to Hokkaido, which took 3 days, will now take 4 days because they have to stay overnight in Tokyo. In the end, it becomes extremely inefficient. The reality is that such companies are being forced into legally very difficult operations.
I understand the characteristics of truck companies that will survive. Yes. Then on the other hand, could you tell me in detail what kind of truck companies will decline?
Well, to put it simply, most companies that operate as subcontractors are already in a legal gray area or are sustained by taking on jobs from prime contractors that are completely out of bounds. If you look at the financial forecasts of major companies for the next term, or rather for the upcoming quarter or next term, you'll see that their profit forecasts are slightly lower than before, or they're not showing the same growth rate as they have in the past. That probably includes, well, a fair increase for subcontractors. I think that's being considered, but in reality, will the subcontractors really be able to receive, or rather benefit from, a fare high enough to take measures to clear the 2024 problem? Benefit from it, or rather will they be able to raise the fares enough to cover it? It doesn't seem that way to me. Ultimately, for the drivers at subcontracting companies, their work will decrease and it's clear that their earnings will also decrease. Recently, we've also had people who are currently long-distance drivers feeling anxious that the company they belong to now won't be able to handle the 2024 problem, or that their salaries will end up decreasing. And so the number of people contacting us to apply has been increasing. As I mentioned earlier, for jobs on routes where efficiency drops, naturally the shipper will have to bear the burden of that portion of the fare. However, it's often difficult to get the shippers to understand, or they are simply turned away at the door. That is the current reality. To overcome these kinds of problems, it will also require enormous expenses. So for the end users, the general consumers like us, and for those of you watching this program as well, for the things you normally shop for, and of course when you eat out, I believe the prices of all sorts of things will continue to rise more and more. Right now that aspect isn't really being treated as a problem, and on TV and in other media it's not really being highlighted yet, but I want everyone to know that this is a major economic risk, a fact that every citizen must come to accept. So with that, I have been talking about the characteristics of trucking companies that will survive even when the 2024 problem arrives. Ultimately, whether or not they are in a position to be able to raise their fares, and whether they are in an industry where customers will allow it, is the most important thing. As for our company regarding the 2024 problem, we already have a solution in sight, and we are proceeding smoothly with its implementation. So for those considering applying, please rest assured. Ultimately, the burden on the shipper will become larger. However, preparations for a major fare revision are also underway, and including the shippers and horse owners who have used our services so far, we are steadily increasing our personnel so as not to cause any inconvenience. We have already had a significant base salary increase, which has continued from last year into this year, and we expect to be able to greatly increase the returns to our drivers in the future, so there is no worry that income will decrease. On that note, we plan to continue creating content that conveys the atmosphere and appeal of our company, so please look forward to it in the future. Well then, thank you for watching until the very end.